Hey, Mindy and Faith Always Wins. I would like to nominate Karen Dunsmore and Deeanne King for the Kindness Award. Karen is, both of them are friends from high school from Shawnee Mission West. Deeanne is Chief of Human Resources at Sprint, now T-Mobile, I guess, here in Kansas City. And a couple of weeks ago when the shutdown first started, I was talking with a friend of mine, the director of the St. Michael's Veterans Center. It's a homeless center for formerly homeless vets over by the VA. And with that shutdown, about 50 of their residents were going to be in a spot where they would not have any sort of ability to communicate with the outside world, no device or anything like that. And so I had not talked to Deeanne in some time and didn't have a number, so I reached out to my friend Karen. Karen was so kind to be able to hook me up with Deeanne. Deeanne called me back or emailed me back, and just a couple of minutes after a contact with her, copying in some people from her veteran resource group over there, saying, let's make this happen. And 2 days after that, there were 50 devices taken over to St. Michael's Veterans Center by the people at Sprint, so that those people now have access to the outside world. And where it's really important is that these people, you know, homelessness is not something that is chosen, obviously. It's usually comes from some tragedy in life, whether, in the case of these veterans, post-traumatic stress, self-medicating that, leads on down the road to homelessness. So, to have them locked away in their apartments during this lockdown with no access to the outside world is a recipe for tragedy. So by the kindness of Karen and Deeanne, Karen hooking me up with Deeanne and Deeanne making it happen, that's much less likely to happen over there. I nominate Karen Dunsmore and Deeanne King.
We have been made aware of a wonderful gift that happened, and what it was a bunch of phones and minutes for phones that veterans in the Kansas City area received. And
yes.
Learning about this, we learned that there were many hands that touched this project, and it really goes to show how the simplest thing as a connection, a phone call, an email, can be a ripple. And that's what SevenDays talks a lot about. What is the ripple? So tell us a little bit about your ripple and your little...
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. So I'm friends with Dale Blake, and he and I went to high school, and we just happened to be communicating one day, and he asked me if I knew anyone that worked at Sprint, because he had been made aware that there were some veterans that through the stay-at-home order were somewhat isolated and removed from their families and weren't able to communicate. So I have a lifelong friend that works at Sprint. She and I have been friends since we were 11 years old. So my part in the connection was I passed along a phone number to Dale, and then he made the connection with Deeanne King, and it went from there. And I think that many hands did touch this project, but when you're at home and you're not crafty and you can't sew masks or things like that, it was really nice to see. I think within 24 hours or 48 hours, there were phones delivered to these vets, and they were able to communicate with their family members.
Thank you, gentlemen. I am super excited to have you both here. Why don't we start by having you tell us your names?
So I am Nick Ayers, and I work at Sprint now as moving into T-Mobile, and my role for this is I am the co-chair of their Veterans Employee Resource Group.
Yeah, my name is Kadeem Raza, and pretty much what my role is that I do product and device launches with Sprint, now part of T-Mobile. And when this request came to me, I just, any chance I can get to help anyone, especially within the company, I'll go ahead and, get it done. I was able to retrieve a big load of devices from some of our device team and, get those activated. I made sure that they all were working prior to boxing them up, had a few charge in them.
So what exactly did you all do?
So the first part was reaching out to the St. Michael's Community Center to understand kind of what the need was on their end. So we had the initial kind of high-level request of kind of explaining the situation, that there were veterans that were at the St. Michael's Community Center that didn't have connectivity, and that, you know, with all the lockdown, there was concern about them just being connected with family and friends, and then also mailing a check on them. So I reached out, talked to the leadership there, who we had known from some previous work we had done with them, kind of understood what they were kind of looking for, and then I reached out to Deeanne's group and to try to see what was kind of in the realm of possibility that we could turn around and do at a kind of short notice.
So what we did was, once that request came in through Nick, we went ahead and got in touch with some of our device team in just one building over on the campus. We were like, hey, do you have any devices that you'd be willing to spare for us that we can go ahead and get for Nick so we can get them to the right people who need to get some service? So yeah, once that came in, we got in touch fairly quick. We arranged about 50 devices that were ready for pickup at this other building. So I went in, grabbed those devices, rolled them on over to my building, make sure they all turn on, make sure they work, have some charge in them. One by one went through them, and then by the end of that workday, I had them all boxed up, ready to go for Nick, and he came through the next morning and took them away.
Wonderful. So tell me a little bit about how it made you feel knowing that the impact you were going to have on these vets.
So, I mean, it made me feel good. I mean, I think all of us, want to be able to do something that's going to make a measurable impact. And even if it's small, if it's real.
Anything you can do to help anyone out, especially in the times of COVID-19, with all the lockdown. I know it's really difficult for people getting connectivity in general. And on top of, you throw this whole COVID-19 situation on top of it. I was really glad that I was able to make a difference and hopefully help some of those people to get some kind of connectivity with loved ones and families.